What is the war on drugs and why is it such a problem in America? The war on drugs was declared in 1971 by President Richard Nixon. The war on drugs is a general term used to refer to the federal government's attempts to end the import, manufacture, sale, and use of illegal drugs in America. This is not an actual war, but instead refers to a series of anti-drug initiatives that are vaguely directed towards the common goal of ending drug abuse. This leads me to my second question. Why is the war on drugs such a problem? According to an article on CNN.com titled "The War on Drugs: A Trillion-Dollar Failure," since 1971, over $1 trillion has been spent funding the war on drugs. This is about $50 billion of taxpayer money every year for the last 42 years. And with all of this funding, the DEA has announced that only about 10% of the drugs have been removed from streets. This means that the war on drugs program has about a 10% success rate in the last 42 years of its existence. As I further inform you of the problems from the war on drugs, I want you to remember these three facts. 42 years in the making, $1 trillion spent, and a 10% success rate. Some other problems acquired by the war on drugs includes that the United States is the highest prison incarceration rate in any other country in America, with about 2.3 million people behind bars, and more than 500,000 of those people are incarcerated on nonviolent drug offenses. And according to that same article from CNN.com, that $1 trillion figure I told you to remember does not include the $17.5 billion of taxpayers' money every year it costs to house those nonviolent drug offenders. Along with the mandatory sentencing under the war on drugs policies, these nonviolent drug offenders go to jail in prison on nonviolent drug charges, and more times than not can come out seasoned criminals due to the fact that they are housed with violent offenders and they are institutionalized for long periods of time. These nonviolent offenders are released from prison and they are labeled as a felon. And once you are a convicted felon, it is very hard to obtain employment due to the fact that most companies do not want to hire a convicted felon. Along with the hardships of finding employment, when you are a convicted felon, you lose some of your rights. Some of them being the right to own a firearm and the right to obtain a government job, including military. In some states, you can lose your right to vote. I believe that there was a lot better and more effective ways that $1 trillion could have been spent on fighting the war on drugs. For an example, many more rehabilitation centers and addiction centers could have been built, and communities that needed counseling and self-help groups could have got them. In closing, the next time you hear a politician on your TV screen talking about the greatness of the war on drugs, I want you to remember these facts. 42 years in the making, $1 trillion spent, a 10% success rate, and over 500,000 Americans incarcerated on nonviolent drug offenses. And that is your war on drugs.